Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, and today is January 26, 2026. It's been a stressful weekend here in the United States, and not just because of one thing. But the primary thing I wanted to talk about today is this. Republicans and conservatives have finally shown the world who they actually are, and I am done pretending otherwise. Normally, I try to find common ground. I try to understand where people are coming from. Not today. Not about this. At this point, refusing to see reality for what it is doesn't make you principled. It makes you complicit. For my entire life, this country has lurched from one gun tragedy to the next. I've spoken out, I've marched, I've covered this issue time and again. And every single time, like clockwork, the same armchair constitutional scholars crawl out of the woodwork to tell us to calm down, stop being emotional, and remember that gun rights are paramount to our freedom. This weekend ripped the mask off of that argument because when it actually mattered, when the scenario they've warned about for decades finally arrives, they folded. Instantly. No hesitation, no reflection, just cowardice dressed up as law and order. And we begged for humanity, for common sense gun regulation, for anything resembling responsibility, and we got the same excuses every single time. It's not guns, it's mental health. Criminals don't follow laws. It's too soon to talk about reform. It's in the Constitution for a reason. And my personal favorite, if you ban guns, only the government will have them. And that's the tyranny argument, the idea that armed civilians are the final safeguard against authoritarian rule, that private gun ownership deters oppression. But that fantasy ignores reality. You see, modern power isn't checked by civilians' small arms. It's enforced through surveillance, drones, air power, logistics, and centralized command structures. It also assumes something history never supports, that a fractured, ideologically divided civilian population would suddenly unite against state power instead of splintering, infighting, or turning on one another. History offers little evidence that lightly armed populations defeat modern states, and even less evidence that widespread gun ownership protects democracy. And yet, even knowing all of that, we've already seen what happens when propaganda is fed instead of checked. People radicalized by baseless rumors stormed pizza parlors looking for basements that never existed. And that wasn't resistance. It was delusion weaponized. Which brings us to now. I want to extend the same legal courtesy that the DHS and FBI have shown the victims in these cases, which is to say none at all. Officials like Greg Bavino, Kristi Noem, and Kash Patel have publicly assigned guilt, intent, and criminality to individuals without trials, without evidence, and without restraint. They do this while refusing to litigate matters like images or facts when questioned. And apparently that's fine because they're Republicans. Rules are suggestions when they're in power. You see, they can accuse the dead of crimes within minutes of their deaths. But critics like me are told to wait patiently for verdicts before calling corruption what it is. And I'm done playing that game. Here's what we know. Renee Nicole Good was shot 3 times. 2 of those shots were not immediately life-threatening. The fatal shot was to the side of her temple, a final, clearly illegal shot. She was not obstructing anyone. She was trying to leave. Her death will likely be ruled a homicide at worst, negligent manslaughter at best, and yet the federal agents involved seized evidence, cleaned the scene, and refused to cooperate with local authorities. A cohesive investigation was never allowed to happen. The cover-up began immediately. And what did we hear from conservatives? That if she had just complied, she'd still be alive. That was the moment that the mask really came off. But then came Alex Preddy. Alex Preddy showed up with a camera and the intent to help his community. When masked federal agents moved in, he recorded them, exercising his First Amendment rights. And they didn't like that. They shoved a young woman to the ground and he tried to help her up. 5 or 6 agents then took him to the ground. They disarmed him of his legally owned, legally concealed firearm, and then they executed him from behind. After the first shot, at least 9 more shots were fired into his unarmed body. An American citizen was stripped of his First, Second, and Fourth Amendment rights and summarily executed in the street. And suddenly, the loudest voices about government tyranny went silent. And I'll give credit where it's due. Some people, very few, have finally started waking up. Conservative veterans have reached out to me personally to say that they're done with Trump after this, but many others still refuse to let this sink in. And I don't know what's going to take. Maybe it's just this normalcy bias. Maybe it's this desperate need to believe that the chaos isn't real even after helping create it over the last decade. Or maybe it just doesn't matter to you because your bank accounts look a little better. Either way, it's pathetic. Because when push finally came to shove, the people who told us they'd stand up folded instantly. We remember Sandy Hook. We remember the lectures. We remember being told guns were the last defense against tyranny. Kyle Rittenhouse was called a hero for carrying a gun he wasn't legally allowed to possess into a state he didn't live in. Patricia and Mark McCloskey brandished firearms at protesters and became RNC keynote speakers. And now those same voices are asking why Alex Preddy had a legally holstered firearm, implying he must have been an assassin. You don't get to have it both ways. All that fear about Democrats taking your guns, it's happening now. Masked agents are doing it, and they're killing people while they're doing it. And suddenly, you only care about compliance? So I'm not holding back anymore. Weak. Pathetic. Your gaslighting and your Darvo won't save you from the hypocrisy you're demonstrating in real time, and everyone is watching. And everyone remembers. When you were actually needed to be patriots, you turned into mice. My line was January 6th when they tried to overturn a democratic election, but unleashing masked agents to violate constitutional rights and execute citizens in the street. Yeah, that's where the exit ramp should be kind of obvious. So just know that when MAGA ends, and it will, you're going to want excuses ready. Because unlike the 1940s, you've documented everything. Your words, your names, and your complicity. And we're done with the Orwellian doublespeak. This is the moment to choose a side. Anyways, don't be a stranger. And you all come back now. You hear?